everybody, welcome back to Yoga for Tango Dancers, and today's topic is going to be pivoting. This is based on a wonderful conversation that was started by a viewer last week who watched my last tutorial, and the question that she brought up is a really great one, and that is mechanics for pivoting, specifically pivoting in front ochos. So this is a common complaint that I hear, especially from followers, especially if you wear heels, that in front ochos, usually by the time you're done pivoting, there's a lot of tension and there's a lot of struggle to keep your axis. So I want to kind of give you a basic conceptual framework to understand the pivoting and understand what could be happening in your body at the moment of you starting to feel like you're losing your balance. And then give you a few exercises to do at home to find this in your own body. So let's get started. First, I want to point out that I'll be doing this without heels, and I do recommend that you do this without heels as well. As I've talked about before, heels really change the alignment in the body. There's a lot more things to keep track of when you're wearing heels. So my suggestion is do the exercises without heels, get them to the point where you can do it with your eyes closed, literally. Any of the exercises that we do, if you can do it without heels, with your eyes closed without losing balance, then go on to do it in heels and it will be easier. That's kind of my personal philosophy that I've adopted. So in terms of pivoting, we have two basic types of pivots that I think about, which is a pivot in place and a traveling pivot. So a pivot in place would be just basically I'm already settled on my axis and then I'm pivoting. So this would be a forward pivot. And here I'm just dealing with making sure that my axis stays grounded the whole time. The other pivot is a traveling pivot, which would be that I step and then I pivot, and then I need to step again. So what is it that would cause us to lose balance? Mainly it has to do with geometry of your body. There are three main components that have to be aligned correctly in order for your axis to stay true, in order for you to arrive and feel balanced. The 3 points are your hips, your lower rib area, so kind of where the thoracic spine begins, and your head. Most of the time, if you're losing balance, one or two or all three of those are slightly too forward. It's never the case that you're falling back. It's always forward. So if you think about it, we are pivoting and our eyes are forward, we're looking forward, we're connecting with our partner forward. So if there's a slight misalignment forward, which is very common, by the time that I arrive here, I will be falling forward. So to study that within yourself, what I would recommend is use a mirror and do some pivoting in front of a mirror and see. If it's hard for you to see it while you're doing it, make a video of yourself and just kind of track what is the part of your body that you feel is the heaviest at the moment that you arrive. Now, in terms of how to actually then find your alignment, I would suggest you look through my other tutorials. I've done lots of tutorials on how to align your hips, how to align your upper back, how to find your axis, things like that. So just a quick crash course here in how to find the alignment of your axis. This is an exercise that I think is so effective in building up your awareness of axis and how you need to be centered in your body at all times. So what you'll do is stand with your feet hips width apart, come up onto your toes, and then watch here and see that you haven't created tension in the upper back. So I haven't shifted anything in my hips or my upper body. My knees are soft. And then I'm going to begin to bend the knees and come down. And here I'm practicing not changing anything in my body in terms of the alignment of the hips and my chest and my head. If one of these things comes forward too much, I will feel the gravity pushing me forward. So in terms of dialing, tuning your own axis, this is a really great exercise to do. So I'm going to just come up onto the toes, bend the knees, find my balance here, bring the heels down and come up. So do that a few times just to start to establish what is your axis in terms of your alignment. And this is the axis that you need to have when you're pivoting. So once you've done that a couple of times, you can also reverse it. So we were doing come up onto the toes, bend the knees, heels down, press up. Then you can also bend the knees, lift the heels here. Notice I didn't change height. Then press up and then come down. So practicing that, just doing that maybe 2 or 3 times each direction. And after that, moving on to your pivoting exercise. So the second exercise that you'll do is just very, very simple, is being on one foot. And here, I'm going to make sure, once again, notice my starting point, I'm not going to lock my legs, not locking my knee. I'm pretty soft here. And I'm able to lift my heel off the ground just a smidgen without changing anything in my upper body. So you can start with the other leg just kind of free, releasing this hip. This is going to be key. From last week's tutorial, I talked about how definitely if the hip hikes up during your pivot, you will feel off axis when you arrive. So from here, I recommend using a prop. In this case, I'm using a broomstick, and so if you can grab something that's like this will be very helpful. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dissociate and just pivot myself 180 degrees and pivot, and just practice this. So what you'll have to feel is that you can, the whole time, find your axis as undisturbed. So we're applying this mechanic that we just explored, right? So we're practicing staying in that alignment, and now we're taking that alignment and we're putting it into a spiral motion. So do it on both sides. So here, once again, notice how soft I'm keeping everything. I'm always thinking that I should be able to jump at any point. So from here, with the bar in front of me, I dissociate and I pivot, and then I pivot. So just practicing that. I would recommend looking at yourself in the mirror, making videos of yourself, and keep track of, if you are losing balance, where is the heavy part. So sometimes it's the leg hiking up. Other times we arrive with our hips collapsed forward, or we have the chest forward too much, and that's what will mostly create that instability. So then let's talk about the traveling ochos, the pivoting for the ochos. So when I go forward now, imagine this. So I have already this task of spiraling around my axis and keeping my balance. But now I'm also creating a forward direction. So this is a mechanism that's spinning, and it's traveling forward. So most of the time what happens is that there's not enough of a support in the opposite direction. Because what we're doing is we're saying we have to arrive fully, pivot without losing balance, and then be able to produce a controlled next step. We're not looking for just going with no control, right? We're not interested in that. We're interested in that soft arriving, that soft landing, and the control to go forward. So the way I think of it is that you want to watch that when you arrive on that leg and you're about to pivot, that you feel those parts that are being pushed forward, that you bring them in. You bring them in. You want to feel that your back body at the moment of pivot has not come forward like this, but that you're holding it inside your body. So I usually, when I practice ochos by myself, I don't think about creating really big steps. I don't think about a lot of like line and expression. I think about comfort and mechanics. So when I land on a pretty bent knee. I'm pretty soft. I'm looking for the alignment. I'm looking for being able to completely balance on that leg. Then, once I'm ready to pivot, I'm going to use perhaps this again. You can do it with or without. So I'm going to use my dissociation and pivot and arrive and really be steady here and feel that I can totally balance before going. Then I push off my standing leg and I go to the next point. But notice, once again, I'm landing underneath myself. So a lot of times we might over pivot and step away, or we overstep and try to pivot when the step is too big. So make it comfortable. Just step underneath yourself and then pivot and start over. So I would recommend that you do that a few times and just kind of watch what things arise in the process of you trying to do it. So once again, what you would do is first practice your axis exercise, feeling that you're completely balanced. Next, I would practice just being able to pivot in place. So this is a forward pivot that we're practicing. And then the next thing would be to practice the forward ocho, stepping forward, pivoting, and stepping forward. So you're pausing at every step, noticing that you are completely on balance before coming forward. Okay, so try that out and let me know how it goes, and I'll see you next week. Bye.